Welcome to Masculinity Matters. I'm your host, Lomander, and today we are joined by Anthony. Anthony is a guy that, once again, I met through a Threads post asking for masculine perspectives on different subjects and different topics. And other than that, besides Anthony's profile picture, I know jack shit about the guy. So, Anthony, who are you?
I am Anthony. You just said it. That's
Perfect.
all there is. So I'm a performer based in the DMV area. Sorry, my cat's making an appearance now. She wants to be involved.
I was about to say, the second the camera turned on, she like, hey, what's going on? I'm a part of this too.
I'm actually polyamorist. Okay. So I make a living performing. I'm in an 80s band in the area. My whole background is theater as well, so I did theater for around like 12 years outside New York City, a lot of national tours. Grew up in a very supportive musically environment in like, you know, middle class, suburban, outside Philadelphia. Okay. But also went to school in Miami, so I think just through that, just kind of met a lot of different people, all through music. And through pursuing the arts as a performance, went to school for education, met my now ex-wife down there actually, and this was up to time to later, just with everything with my own journey, and everything with how I identify. But we kind of just did the acting thing for a while, and now just based on work and circumstances, I'm doing this more full-time band outside of the DMV area.
Right on.
With a live-in partner, just moved in around 3 months ago, so that's been awesome as well. Having someone back in my space, and we click very well. And yeah, I don't know, I just have gone through a lot in terms of just self-reflection, introspection, and I like to think that now I'm living just more of my authentic self. So
Nice. So, as a band guy, I have to ask, you say you're in an 80s band. I see that there is a keyboard behind you. I'm assuming she plays it too, obviously, because she looks like a natural.
Earlier today, unfortunately, I was like trying to record some shit, some like original stuff, and I just hear like burr, burr, burr in my headphones. I'm like, I didn't put that in, and look over, and she's just like meow on top. So
hey, I'm just saying, she wants to be a part. She wants to be she wants to featured a featured role. So, what instruments do you play?
So I started saxophone actually when I was like 12.
No.
Yeah. Do you play too or no?
No, finding sax players is just something that's rare for me, and as a ska guy, it's like I met a number of trumpeters, I've met a number of trombonists, but like saxophonists, I'm just like, bro. So yeah, no, I'm excited.
I actually just learned that Real Big Fish was the band that recorded for Weird Al his song Horoscope. I never read the song at all, but like we did a collab with.
That's
Real
amazing.
Big Fish. It's like very like ska-based song. Usually
nice.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I played sax first. Yeah, when I was like 12, I did concert band, jazz band, wind ensemble, marching band in high school. But that was very, at least in my school, because we did have good. It was a public school. We still had a very good supportive music program.
Nice.
It was all consuming, so it was very competitive. I remember Fridays and Saturdays actually traveling to different schools for competitions.
Oh, so you were like in one of those like drumline schools, like from the movie Drumline.
Kind of, yeah. Especially in with marching band, yeah.
Yeah.
Your typical, 9 hours a day of band practice during the summer, and then getting on a bus and going somewhere Friday, Saturday. And like I said, for us at least it paid off. I got a lot of like solo awards in jazz band. Middle school through a lot of high school, and then eventually like technique won over passion, and I just didn't want to put the work in essentially to like actually get to the next level. But it also comes back to like I just didn't like connect emotionally to a lot of like the music as opposed to vocals, which is what I got into when I was first like in a rock band when I was like 14, 15, discovered Soundgarden, Chris Cornell, my big idol. Got a Soundgarden tattoo right here actually.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah,
I love Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington are two of my like top ones.
Yeah, and they were friends obviously.
I'm
sure you follow, but Chester, left us on Chris Cornell's birthday, essentially. because they were like that. Yeah, it's so sad.
It really is. It's definitely like part of why I've gotten into like doing masculinity work and like kind of detoxifying masculinity has a lot to do with just the connection that I felt to like Chester Bennington's music specifically, but like also a lot of like Chris Cornell's struggles that I've read about in some of interviews that he's done, and like the closeness that those two guys had. And just like, I'm not gonna lie, Chester, whenever he died, like I legitimately had to like stop my car and like pause for a bit, because it was just like I realized how important like he as an artist was like in my life.
Yeah,
and
that was me with Chris Cornell actually. I was working on a cruise ship, Royal Caribbean.
Yeah.
And, like everyone knew how much he meant to me, so I just got a bunch of like messages like, "Did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear?" And you know, but I do think going back to masculinity, and especially that era, the grunge, was a total rejection of the I was going to say hyper masculinity of like the 80s, but even then, masculine was like spandex and makeup. You know,
I was about to say like Twisted Sister and a lot of those glam
they
bands.
still sang about obviously, you know, screwing different girls like every night, but I think that was kind of like the idea now where it's like, I mean, I played with a lot of like Gen Xers and Boomers, you know, and like they kind of evolved into the ways, unfortunately, a lot of times. But it's like, bro, you were, you know, idolizing Prince, and like Prince wasn't someone that fit any kind of like gender norms or like anything. You know what I mean?
No.
So
and like David Bowie too. Like, I mean, let's like whenever we talk about enigmas of the gender spectrum and all that, like Prince and David Bowie are the two that I'm just like up there.
And they're just like, well, like they were a character. They're famous. It's different. It's like, no, being their true selves, and like
exactly.
They didn't have to also like become famous because the cultural zeitgeist was into that in the moment, you know. But I do think the masculinity of the grunge era was still like a total reactionary response to that, where it was much more, what is masculinity? What is being a man? Let's like sing about our pain. You know?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think it came at a crossroads where like mental health, especially men's mental health, was not up to par yet. So they had an outlet with music for sure, but all these record companies were just like, yeah, sing about that. We love that shit.
Exactly.
No support for any of that.
Yeah, and what it would bring up, especially like for me, would be like it would bring these feelings to the surface and just be like, oh my God, I resonate with what this guy's singing about. I feel that same pain, but what the fuck do I do with this now? Like, and then you just kind of had to sit in it and just live in it. And for some people, myself included, it like led me to spaces where it was like, I don't know what to do with these feelings that I'm feeling, and like societal expectations make it to where I can't really express them outwardly because that's gay or that's feminine or something like that. So like, what do I do with this? And I go into online spaces, and I go to the only online spaces that existed in the like early aughts and like 2002, 2003 was places like 4chan and message boards and such like that. So, and that provided kind of a sense of community, a place where like people who were also feeling feelings they didn't understand were able to get them out. And then I realized there's a lot of really angry people in the world who say a lot of heinous shit. And that kind of like started me down almost like a red pill, like toxic masculinity pipeline long before there ever was a name for it. So since we're already getting into the masculinity thing, my God, segues are never as good as they could be if you don't point them out. So as I like to ask around these parts with everybody that we get on this show, I am curious, and it seems like you already kind of gave me a little bit of an answer to this. Anthony, to you, in your experience, in your life, how do you define a man? What is a man to you?
It's funny because that has actually evolved over time with my own relationships and points in life. I mean, I grew up with two parents who still love each other very, very much. You know, they were kind of the pinnacle in my mind of what a marriage relationship should be. Still together.
I legitimately think you're the first person I've had on who has
Really?
told me this.
Where
Everybody
did my actual
else,
trauma come from? I don't even know.
every person I've had on is either a product of divorce or like separation of some kind, or like single parents. Like,
No.
what it? Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
I mean,
continue.
I will say, to that effect, it still was, and like they've gone in, to their credit, like so much better, because I think they saw what I went through with like my own mental health issues, and they were kind of forced to go that direction.
Yeah.
And they even like admitted so. They're just like, our perspectives on XYZ have changed, and we are like having people in the 60s be like, we are sorry for like what we said and how we acted in the past. I think is like so much humility and like introspection, that a lot of parents will just be like, well, you know, like things are always changing and like we just can't keep up, you know. So
This is just who I am.
yeah. So, I mean, but I did kind of grow up with that typical, you know, like very, very taken care of in terms of, had very motivated parents that always pushed me to do things academically.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mean, I think everyone in my generation, I'm like 36 now, the typical like talking too much about your feelings, making comments like you're too sensitive, or, you know, things like that. And like I said, if my pinnacle litmus test was my parents, I was like, well, they're not incredibly emotionally, I guess, expressive. We still were. It's not like we were like the whole time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had a lot more emotional discussions amongst each other, because they are each other's ride or dies, you know. Maybe, you know, I'm sure this is a family dynamic, you know, maybe they thought it wasn't the place or time.
Yeah.
I think when I saw that, I was like, okay, a man looking at my dad is someone who kind of bows out of the emotional space for his partner to kind of take over.
Okay.
Probably just rebranded emotional avoidance. For
Yeah.
sure. So even with my ex, we were together for like 10 years. She comes from like a Latin family. She's Miami, Puerto Rican. It's a lot different in terms of emotional expression. And at first, like, just seeing like some like the volatility in her family, I was like, how can anyone live like this? But,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, they're still expressing emotions, and even if it flares back and forth, then you can talk all day about, is that toxic in itself? Because it is just like, we hate each other. Oh, we love each other. We hate each other. You know, but family's family is something I never really understood. I have a brother. It's ebb and flowed through, like, you know, connection.
Yeah.
You know, he also is a father too. So he's obviously busy with his own stuff as well. But to see like my ex and her sister go from like, oh, we hate each other, to, oh, we hate our mom instead, it was always something. But like I said, they were always willing to hit their emotions head on.
Yeah.
And I think when I was like, we first started dating when I was like 20, you know. And I think I was just still figuring out a lot about my life. I was a serial like dating monogamous.
Oh yeah. No.
High school girlfriend into like a whole phase in college, which was like I fooled around with like 3 girls, and then like, you know, even through my marriage, I was like, well, it would have been nice to like have a little more of that, you know. I'll get to this later, but all these terms of like open marriage and non-monogamy, like I just didn't know. You just don't know until you know. When I first started hearing that, I was like, oh, maybe this is actually like something. But I think because a lot of our like early relationship stuff was a lot of anxious attachments, and me kind of avoidance, I never felt safe to bring up these things without it being like interpreted as, you know, her not being good enough or things like that. So to me, the man thing, it's very dramatic to say like silently suffering, because a lot of people, men and a lot of women, obviously in domestic abuse relationships, go through a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I did feel I had to kind of just be the emotional rock for a lot of it as the man, and kind of suck up my own feelings, desires, alternative desires, things like that.
Yeah.
Throughout a lot of the relationship, and I think that kind of translated to just a lot of points in my life, you know, where I wasn't really open. I didn't start seeing therapy to like the end of my marriage, essentially, when I was also going through like a big mental health crisis. I should have gone earlier. You know, it's always like people should be in it, but like I'm okay. That kind of
Yeah. Like I get why people do, but it's not something like I need, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm not. You don't want to admit I'm not that far gone. You know.
Exactly. Well, and besides that, like there's also the stigmatization of like mental health in general. I know that like growing up in the family that I did, there was always like that. Well, you know, our cousin from the city goes and sees a therapist, so make sure that there aren't any forks on that side of the table. You know, that sort of a thing. So like hearing that as a kid,
I feel that has changed so much.
it has, yeah, and that thank whatever belief system you have, the head of that belief system, because good Lord, the fact of that we treated even just like going to therapy as like, oh, that person's crazy is just so backwards to how it should be.
I mean, it's so goddamn expensive a lot of times, so that's obviously has to work on.
Yeah.
But still, you know, I think I've had the same therapist now, and actually recently it's been a lot less seeing them just because I've been just more in a better place. I've been a lot more, I think, stable, honestly. But I just had to check in with them maybe like 2 weeks ago after like 4 months, just to like let them know. They helped me with a lot of my stuff with the polyamory for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of being like see red flags or being like, this doesn't sound ideal, you know, you don't really know until you're out of it, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Same with my first, you know, relationship, my marriage actually. You don't really know until you're out of it, and
kind of how bad it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but like it's obviously so much more nuanced than that, you know.
Yeah.
But you don't really know how I don't really know how I behaved until I saw how I could behave.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know how a partner behaved until I saw how a partner
could behave or should behave.
Yeah, could behave. And obviously throughout 10 years you evolve, you go through different phases of life, things like that, you know what I mean? And like ultimately I think we just like kind of just grew apart with what we wanted. I mean, it was amicable, but like I said, I think it came in a culmination of me personally, and I'm sure she did her own thing as well, so I can't speak for that and her own process.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I can only speak for me personally, going through a lot of who am I, what am I, did I screw this up pursuing something that I should be shameful for, am I going to regret this separation?
Yeah.
Why am I even feeling this way? Like, because obviously everyone is like, you know, make sure that you are okay with yourself first before you start, you know, giving your life to a partner, because ultimately, like, you are your own person. If you and your partner separate, ultimately, I know easier said than done, but it's like it should not be the end of the world, you know.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
You are a whole person by yourself. But tied into the ideas of masculinity and being a man, I am a man with my wife, and we grew up in theater, like I said, with, you know, all sorts of different kinds of people.
Yeah.
And I now identify as queer, you know, just after a lot of introspection as well. But obviously, there's a lot of different kinds of people: the gender spectrum, sexuality spectrum, lifestyle spectrum. So it's not like we didn't, you know about that stuff. It was always more kind of like, we're artsy, we're non-traditional, but like we still like have our trajectory as a traditional way forward. You know?
Yeah. Kind of the
like, yeah. It was
kind
like square peg, round hole for a long time, until finally kind of just boiled over. You know.
Yeah.
In terms of all that stuff, and I think it was just so far gone into the relationship. It was hard to really bring that stuff up again without seeming like I'm a different person. You know,
yeah.
A different person. And I think throughout all of this, it still was her really taking the emotional space until finally I had to, because of my own like mental health.
Yeah, your own stuff. Yeah.
Crisis. Yeah. And then I found myself being like, it was like years of like self-repression then to like me, you know, taking over. And even there was a point where she was like, I can't really be around for this. Like, I'm going to call your friend to come up from Texas to like make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like she just like left me to be like, I can't deal with this. You know, she still made sure that I was still safe and healthy.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah, and it's really, it's really great that you had that.
Especially like while we figured our shit out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. So real quick.
I think, go on.
So, It kind of, just kind of based on what you've been saying, it kind of sounds like that for you, like a man is kind of the, not necessarily the emotional, like, thinker type, but more of like the doer type. Is that kind of...
I mean, for a long time, yeah.
Yeah.
You show your you show your care through your actions.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you still have to, because actions speak louder than the words. But I
Fair.
think it was always a reaction to, I want to say a problem, but a reaction to a situation. You know,
Okay, yeah.
situations presented to you, whether it's a partner, whether it's something domestic. And then how am I, as the man, going to react to make sure everything is like even keel again? And obviously, I've learned that relationships aren't always going to be even keel. You have to have the difficult conversations. So I think, like I said, since then, it's really evolved of what it means to be a man to me,
Yeah.
personally, because I found myself entering a lot more alternative spaces where the idea is like kind of like out the freaking window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and like as somebody who like, and you had said that you identify now as queer, so like as somebody who I identifies as a cis, mostly hetero man, I am here to tell my fellow brethren of that variety, go to alternative spaces. They are some of the most interesting learning spaces for learning who you are as a person, because part of my growth has come from being welcomed into alternative spaces as who I am, which, arguably is like the face of the oppressor type thing. So it's like having to go into those going into those spaces and like seeing the reactions and such like that to like just sometimes even my presence was something that was like super eye-opening to me. And like I have a very similar viewpoint or kind of thought process around like manhood and like what it means to be a man, about like taking responsibility for like ensuring the comfort of everyone around you and like ensuring a safe space type thing. So like it caused me to like look at what I was bringing to a situation that potentially could cause people to feel unsafe, and then having to do the internal work of like, okay, what is it that I can do to create this space that is safe for these people to be around? And like I never would have even remotely considered any of that if I never would have stepped outside of the zones that I felt the most comfortable within. So like I will co-sign all day and a half of like, especially cis hetero men, go to alternative spaces, don't be a dick, like, and go there with a loving curiosity, which is how I try to live my life, and like see who you are, learn who you are, figure out what type of person you are by experiencing other things other than what you're used to.
Yeah, I think at first for me it was like overwhelming, but like I knew that I wanted it.
Yeah.
Because if all you know is one thing, you just gotta like keep pushing to get to some point of like, okay, this is actually like something I feel comfortable with right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and like one of the most freeing things for me as like, ironically enough, as like a straight person, was seeing this like very, very, very flamboyant gay friend of a friend at this party and just living his absolute best life. And just I called him a peacock because there was so many colors that he was wearing, and he had makeup on, he had nails, and like homie served. Like it was like, dude looked good. And I just saw that, and my brain was just like, he is so joyful. There is so much love in this space. There is so much happiness in this space. And I realized that like in the spaces that I had been occupying in my life for the years and years that I had been occupying them, very like very monogamy, like heteronormative, very straight, traditional spaces. And I realized that there was like a rigidity within those, and like an expectation, almost a fear even, of stepping outside of those expectations that just didn't exist in these new spaces that I was finding myself in. And it opened me up to figuring out, like, well, like, what is it about me that makes me feel like those spaces are where I need to be and these spaces aren't where I should be? And, like, it caused me to, like, have questions about my own sexuality and explore my own sexuality even. And, like, that's one of the things that, like, I don't know, the queer community, especially in my case, like, I think that the queer community has a lot of fucking good for straight people too, because having the ability to experience and explore yourself without the judgment or without the, I don't know, ostracization that can come with being outside of the norm or whatever, like, being able to explore those things in a safe environment allows you to figure out, oh, okay, well, I'm not into that. And that's cool, and nobody cares.
You don't have to be into everything either, is what I've learned.
Exactly, and, like, I feel like
I want to be like, I want to take this entire lifestyle, like, you know,
yeah,
and just, but, you know, same thing where something is like, nah, not for me. You know what I mean? I do think those spaces, any kind of gender, sexual, even cultural minority, they are open. Like, it was almost out of necessity, right? Because they were cast aside by a lot of, you know, normative society. So, of course, those spaces have done the work to find, like, what clicks for them, what areas, communities can we create where we all share common values while also not being afraid to step outside and
introduce new thought and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean, like, so, like, I'm in like I said, DMV area, in, like, an up and coming. It's been up and coming for, like, 7 years now, like a mid-sized city outside Baltimore, you know. But there's still a lot of there's conservative roots, but, like, it used to be farmland like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? But even, like, the young people, like, even, like, me and my girlfriend go downtown to, like, the bars. It's like no shade, obviously, but, like, people showing up, like, in, like, dirty T-shirts and like trucker hats and, like, you know, it's like this is not our scene, you know. Like, rings, but it's almost like the idea of, like, that very, like, and, like, my girlfriend, like I said, we're open, you know. So she's always like, do you see why I'm barely on Tinder right now? Because like the people that are, like, liking her are, like, always
super
just, like,
heteronormative, super trad,
very vanilla, like I said. And, like, we found our spaces and people in Frederick, but, like, three of them, you know what I mean? Going to Baltimore, DC, like kink clubs or like goth nights, things like that have been a little more fruitful. And she's a fetish performer. That's actually, like,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so she's down in, well, she was down in Florida. She was, like, with the same company, Fetish Factory, for, like, 10 years as a dancer. And obviously, as soon as you get into those spaces, it's all alternative, you know. A lot of childless people, a lot of people in the lifestyle, whether swingers or non-monogamous or polyamorous, you know. So she's always kind of been in that circle, you know.
Yeah.
So she was a great, I guess, guide and very, very safe space for me when we first started talking in 2024 about, like, my life. And, you know, she just has so much experience, you know. And even then, I mean, we'll get to it eventually, like, there are some things that even our relationship and my other relationship, you know, when I was dating two people that, like, really strained of, you know, even her experience, like, if she could do it or not do it based on her boundaries and everything.
Yeah, so, like, talking about your polyamory, man, look at these segues. We are so good at this.
It's almost like we have an end goal in mind or something.
Right? But no, I'm so impressed with this. And of course, like I say, segues don't matter if you don't point them out, just like jokes. They're not as funny unless you explain them.
Okay, you're right.
Thank you for humoring me. But anyway, so part of the reason why we got connected in the first place was because I posted on Threads asking for opinions about polyamory from men and that sort of a thing. And what brought me to that point was the fact of that somebody had posted somewhere on Threads that, like, men can't do polyamory because men aren't built that way, or something to that effect. I feel like I've quoted this tweet or this post like 7 different times, 7 different ways. I don't remember what it says. I never saved the post. But it got me to thinking about my own experiences and kind of how I meandered my way, probably unhealthily in a number, well, definitely unhealthy in a number of ways, to getting to where I am with polyamory now. I also, I'm a man, I feel like. I have always identified as such. I was born as such. I have never had any illusions of anything else or illusions to anything else or anything like that. I've always been a man. So therefore, how is it that I don't exist when men can't do this thing that I am very obviously doing and have been for 6 years at this point? So, speaking as another person who I assume probably exists, I think you're there. I don't really know because
all AI. Actually.
I'm just saying we're online. There's a possibility that there is some great AI agent that has created a very realistic looking house, complete with cat that does shed fur. So therefore,
all over my shirt.
Yeah, so therefore, this, I'm saying, Anthony, as an AI agent, impeccable to human behavior. Good job. Really.
Zoom Workplace really stepped up their algorithm.
Right? Exactly. So, given that we both exist, I thought it would be a good idea to bring other people on to show that it is a thing. So, the question that I'm curious about you, because you've actually gone into a lot of what I usually talk about and kind of how I don't actually have that question anymore, but a question that I am curious about is, why do you think that is, that this person thought this? Why do you believe that we have a culture that feels that masculinity and men specifically are so indoctrinated, so genetically dispositioned, or is it nature is a nurture type shit, to be so possessive over other people and relationships that something as what I believe to be natural as a polyamory, non-monogamy, or even swinging for that matter, why is it such a foreign concept that men would be people who are okay with this, but the same doesn't go for women?
Mm-hmm. So I guess that was my clarification. Was that the justification, that men are too possessive, or was it more along the lines of men are just fuckboys who are saying I'm polyamorous, but just destroying and wreaking havoc their way through multiple women?
No, and that's a really good question. I didn't engage with it because I didn't want that added to my algorithm, because dude was definitely a fuckboy for sure. So but I have always looked at the reason why, most of the men that I have met who believe that polyamory is not real, and that it's not something that men can do, and eventually you'll settle down and find a wife or whatever. All of them have viewed relationships, have viewed sexuality, have viewed any type of intimacy that they have with another person as transactional. As the expectation is that if I am with this person, then there is an expectation that I will get things out of this, and so on and so forth. So for me, I feel personally that there is possessiveness that men are either defined as to having, or we just kind of do through indoctrination or something to that effect. But there's an expectation that men will be more possessive, and as such cannot fathom the idea of sharing relationships or something like that. As for what this dude was thinking, no clue. I didn't look in the comments for him to justify his ridiculous logic.
I mean, I don't want to blame the patriarchy and everything, but it probably is the patriarchy, to be honest.
Hey, 34 minutes!
It was mentioned?
Yep, I tend to avoid it in the first 10 minutes because occasionally I can get some red pill guys in here, and if they don't hear the P word, they don't usually run away, but we're 30 minutes in, so
once you mentioned that, so even me and my girlfriend, she still reads red pill women on Reddit, because our relationship especially with like a DS relationship,
Yeah.
is very much based in like, and that's honestly kind of helped me come into my own masculinity of like, what are the roles of a man in taking care of a woman kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of kink for sure, but it's just like also how we bond and our intimate time and how we run a household kind of thing. But even then, every girl in there is like, avoid red pill men because it's an entirely different space. And you have these girls who are like 19 being like, I slept with 2 people, like, am I damaged goods now? Is no guy ever going to want to love me? And it's like, girl, go touch grass, go get out there, you know? But like, these girls are like eating this shit up because all they do is just online spaces. And it's the same through line of a guy online being like, you know, I don't want a girl who is on the streets, you know. And ultimately, the more you dig into that, it always goes back to the idea of like, oh, you don't want a girl that realizes that you may not be able to like have sex with them the best in their life because you don't want them to be able to compare to anything, you know.
Yeah.
So projection, it's all insecurity. I've had to obviously do a lot of self-confidence work with myself and be like, I said this to my girlfriend the other day. It's like I'm currently like the hottest person I know, like to myself. Like I feel like I've done so much work in terms of getting the aesthetic I want. Also, just a lot more calm, peace of mind.
Yeah.
A lot more, like I said, emotional availability to be like I'm like into myself. I was more like autosexual. You know what I mean?
Good.
Like, you know. Like Buffalo Bill, like, would you fuck me?
Yeah, like as long as it doesn't go like too far and you become like this arrogant like super prick. Like I think that sort of like self-love is amazing. And
yeah, but I think even that's rooted still in insecurities, you know.
Yeah.
So I do think because of ingrained patriarchy, that everyone suffers from the patriarchy, obviously.
It's all rooted in imperialist capitalist patriarchy.
Yeah, but all that is kind of based on I take, and
possession. Yeah.
You know, even down to, you know, like your traditional, you know, nuptials, where it is like, you know, do you take your wife, you know, that kind of thing.
Do you take this person to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have, to hold, to like, and that sort of thing. Like it's all
very intimate, but also I think, and obviously the way that marriage used to be run, which is very, you know,
property focused.
Cows, you know, take my daughter kind of thing. You know? And obviously we've evolved past that for the most part, but there is still a lot of ingrained ideas of what that is. I mean, even I think traditional nuptials, I'm not pronouncing man and wife, right? So the idea that you're a man, but you are not a woman. You know, it's like a man keeps his identity as a man, and then the wife is becoming almost like an extension
of the man. Yeah.
And like I said, so like even like me and my girlfriend talked about, like, you know, with marriage, obviously discussion, like, would you want to keep her last name? She's like, fuck no. Like, she wants to take my last name, you know. So like I said, I think that's something that people, if they want, after doing the work, they buy into. And obviously, since we are non-monogamous, we're both polyamorous. She definitely takes a lot more time to get to actually dating someone. She said she would like, it was like a hookup with a guy, maybe like last year, and she was filling me in. I was at a gig, and she's like, he tried to grab my hand, and I just like pulled away because I was like, ugh, like what are you doing, you know?
It's not what this is, bro.
yeah, but it was probably him being like, oh, girls love this shit, so I'm going to, you know. Which also ties into like love bombing, where guys think they have to be like, you're mine, my baby kind of stuff, and then like within 2 weeks, obviously all the red flags are showing up, and it's all just like almost like a manic possession thing. Like
no, 100%.
So I think a lot of it has just been the fact that at least me and my girlfriend do have each other as primaries. Like we do use possessive language, but like I said, we buy into it, right? It's like, you know, you're my prized possession, you're mine, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think if you have like, well, and I think if like if you're respecting the autonomy of another person, the idea of being quote unquote possessive is fine, as long as you both recognize that each other has the full autonomy. I mean, it's similar to kink relationships, where like that autonomy indicates that you can like revoke this possession at any time.
It's about consent, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's one of the big like masculine problems of our age, is that like I'm glad you brought up consent, because I feel like this is a question I need to start asking people on a regular basis. But it's like we have a problem as like socialized men that consent is not something that's like adequately taught to like younger and teenage men. I recognize that like my upbringing and my raising and all of that, whenever you would like if sexual assault was ever even mentioned, it was always mentioned in the ways that either A, the person being assaulted brought it upon themselves, or B, how the person doing the assaulting lost control of themselves. Yeah. And it was always like separating responsibility from like the literal responsible party. And like because of that, it always made it seem like guys don't really get consent, because if there's a way that we can lose our minds to go SA somebody, then obviously it's not a concept that we naturally like have inside of our being. If there's a way that we get uncontrollable, I guess is the best way I can think to put it. Yeah. So when like growing up in a I would say arguably 180 degree direction to what my growing up was as a kid of two very divorced, very toxic, very hateful parents. What was there consent discussions whenever you were growing up? Like as a kid, were you ever taught consent? Was it something that was important in your raising?
Honestly, I can't think.
I always get one question every fucking episode that causes that like momentary thinking face. I got one finally.
I'm pretty sure I've thought about this before.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, and I mean, I can't lie and say that when I was like 14 or 13, like if I had a crush. I actually remember once there's a girl I had a crush on in middle school. You know, and like I think it was social studies. Like I was like almost like talking to her and like putting my hand like on her arm and like her being like, "Don't touch me, like you don't know me." And I was like,
"Oh shit, yeah, no."
You know, obviously, it wasn't like, "Oh, what a bitch." I was like, so at least for me, I want to say like based on my, like I said, my mom was a pinnacle. You know, even though she had like emotional outbursts at some point or whatever, because obviously like your parents aren't going to therapy.
Yeah.
But I always took what she said as like the divine word. So if she was disappointed in me, I did something bad. I did something terrible. It was never like, well, maybe. So
maybe she's misinterpreting things or anything. No, it was like, this is the God's truth. Yeah.
Yes. So I always, you know, whenever, especially like women would label me something or based on arguments or conflicts, like I would take that to heart and be like, this person is right. I'm probably a piece of shit, you know, and then take it very internally. So I will say, even at age 13, 14.
Why do you think you did that?
In terms of what?
Like why? Like just as I hated to cut you off there, but like as somebody who also does that, why do you think you do that? That the like internalization of something that like arguably we didn't intend, arguably we didn't do on purpose, like touching somebody's shoulder and just being like, what the fuck, and all that, like, oh man, I'm a piece of shit for doing that and all that kind of stuff. I know that was where my brain used to go whenever I would like cross those boundaries, and it makes me wonder,
I think having those moments of accountability to be like, you're right, I should not have done that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a space to do that, and then build, grow, apologize, and then move on, as opposed to like ruminate. And I think I spent a lot of my life ruminating,
exactly. Yeah, so did I.
Supposed to be like the Big Lebowski, like, well, that's just your opinion, man, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that's an issue that I also have too. Yeah. And I'm starting to wonder if this is like a kind of across the board thing, that it's like when we do that, when we do something that we recognize as being like either socially deviant or like breaking a consent or something like that, if we have the ability to feel the shame for it, then like you ruminate on it, and we don't have, like, we're not taught, I guess, the emotional processing to be able to like sit with something, think about it, okay, I'll do better, and then move on.
I think men, to that point, Also, I'm sure women in different ways as well, like without a doubt, work on a very binary scale of like, I am either all together, no problems here, or
Everything's
my life
wrong,
is
yeah.
fucked up, I don't deserve to live. You know, there's very, because I think all that work in the meantime of the cracks are kind of a lot of times either band-aided up or avoided entirely. So when the foundation does come cracking on your identity or anything like that, it does strike very, very much to the core, essentially, because
Yeah.
then you start to question a lot about yourself as a person, yourself as a man.
Yeah, because I know.
I think to your point, like I always do try to be conscious, like you said, of like being like a man in these spaces, and trying to, I don't want to say not be intimidating, but like trying to be as like welcoming as possible. You know?
Yeah, kind of open and like and approachable. That's the word.
Yeah. But yeah, I think especially in that moment, and also like I said, I'm a performer, so I think it would be disingenuous to say that like a lot of my validation comes from outside sources. Like I said, I'm a performer. My entire livelihood, I love what I do, is based on giving people a positive experience.
Yeah.
So when that extends inevitably to off stage and giving people in my life a positive experience, and I fall short of that in very dramatic ways sometimes, that is me being like, I failed. What did I do? You know, especially with a marriage where, I mean, all you know is your person, been with for 10 years, and when things and arguments are said that even they might not even remember because they were heated, but of course you remember. Of course.
Yeah, because it hit you hard. For you, for you, it was the worst day of your life. For them, it was a Tuesday type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously with space, it's like, okay, I can kind of see the signs throughout the relationship, you know. But in the moment, obviously, especially when things are that heightened, it's like all you know.
Yeah.
And even with a lot of the way things went down with my separation, and like I said, we both made mistakes on both ends, you know, for sure. I made very blatant mistakes, for sure. But there was still, like I said, the dichotomy. There was a lot of at first, like, pushback, no, like, it wasn't like that, blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel that way. But especially with her, she was just much more like a fighter. So eventually someone's willpower is going to overpower your willpower. So eventually I kind of just conceded, and that's when like everything like broke in me.
Yeah.
If someone is telling you like you're a terrible person, if someone's telling you you did these things, it's very hard to find the nuance when it's like constant.
Yeah, whenever it's constant, for sure.
Yeah.
So do you still feel like you have kind of issues with that, where like if you do kind of have those, like a transgression or something like that, that you kind of go, in my opinion at least, kind of go over the top with it and when like the shame and all that kind of stuff? Or are you at a point now where like, okay, that's something that I've done, I need to work on that, I need to figure out how not to do that in the future and then move on?
I think it depends on the situation and who I'm affecting specifically. If it's someone close to me, obviously I think just statistically it's going to be more of, you know, it's
punch to the gut type thing.
Yeah, even though I guess objectively there should be more room for nuance and discussion because it's someone that you trust to have the difficult conversations with, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what's some of the ways that you have been able to kind of change that mindset? Because we are kind of getting into the back half a little bit, and I do like to do like advice for people. Look at that segue. Anyway, but what's some of the ways that you were able to get past that? Because I know for me it was really difficult, especially like because I'm a very big shame person, like self-shame person. And like that was kind of how I learned like consent and all that. Was very similar to like what you were talking about, where like I find myself like reaching out to like touch somebody on the shoulder or something like that, and then it's like they recoil and like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, oh god, okay, so just don't touch people, period, end of story, at all. Like, even if you're friends with them or like your camaraderie is like, you just don't touch people. And then I learned through other people's actions that like, oh, okay, well, it's okay to like, you know, pat a guy on the back or something like that. So it was like, for me, it was like slowly trying to learn those things. But like the shame part of now, of like when I transgress against like a partner or even a friend or something like that, like you say, I find myself giving more grace to myself for when I do it to people a little further outside of my circle, than I do for like the people within it. Like kind of like what you said, if like my friend Tez, for instance, if I do something that's like shitty to him, then it's like, oh, okay, cool, I'll work on that, I'll figure it out, my bad, fix the problem, blah, blah, blah. But if it's my partner, like, oh, shit, I fucked up. I am like, and then, like you say, it's like harder to talk to them about it because you feel so bad. So yeah, like what's some of the ways that you've kind of gotten past that a little bit?
Well, I mean, especially with polyamory, I felt a lot of shame about that for a while. Being
Yeah.
like, am I just fucked up in the head and just want attention from multiple sources? But one thing that I did was actively find the people in the community that also felt the same way and that wouldn't judge it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part. Surrounding yourself with people that understand you, for sure.
And accept you too, I imagine.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't mean to say that's like blow it up and clean slate. There's a lot of people from, I call them the before times, that I've come out to. I come out to my parents, you know, and like they were so understanding, you know. My dad said, quote, "Isn't one girlfriend exhausting enough?" And I was like, you got a point, honestly.
I mean,
but like I said, they were like, as long as you're safe, as long as you're happy. I mean, they've even asked, like, are you seeing anyone else right now? They met at last year, both my girlfriends. You
nice.
know? So like I said, for being like their age, they're like.
I love that it was a logistics question. It wasn't like a shame question. It was just like a logistics of just like, oh man, isn't that hard?
I always knew that was alternative in some way.
Yeah.
Some gives it away. But especially I think as someone, I think this is actually tying it back to the poly community. I'm sure you've seen like some like Reddit spaces, for example, where as soon as people get pushback about upsetting a partner, the autonomy wall comes up, and it's like, well, you have to regulate yourself. Like your partner has, you know, free reign to, like do what they want, you know. And it's like, do people even like your partners? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, especially if you're seeing more than one person, you are beholden not just a partner, but as a human being to like do the right thing, obviously, and have everyone's emotions in mind.
Respect the people, yeah.
Yeah. So I think especially when it comes to like letting down a partner or letting down partners, it can really get like overwhelming, and you as an individual have to find the balance between like your own sense of self and what you can do better, and then come back with solutions for that partner or those partners or whoever, you know, you slighted in some way.
Yeah.
For me personally, it's been stepping away a bit just to kind of have that space to like really think of things and really think of how I could have done things better. Well, my last girlfriend, at least, like there was like a big like anxious attachment there, you know. It was like square peg round hole for like a year almost, you know, so it was never really settled. And then my girlfriend I have now, like bless her heart, she was like so patient. Like I can never like thank her enough, honestly, for the patience she had as I figured out my shit as a hinge, like dating two people. You know what I mean?
Hey, same here.
Yeah.
I had some.
I'll recommend.
Yeah, no, I definitely as a continued hinge. I've had a. My partners were very nice to me for the first year and a half. They were very forgiving of a lot of my my bumps in the roads, and I'm endlessly thankful and love them for that. So yeah, no, like I've been a bad hinge a number of times, and it's something that just like like you say, stepping away and just kind of taking a step back and just being like, okay, what can I do?
You feel
Yeah.
that as a man in polyamory, we get more like lenience because the stereotype of kind of just like he's kind of just like almost like a dumb man, but he's just like a man, you know.
Kind of one of those, he don't got the right words, but he got the spirit types.
Yes. Do you feel that that exists in these? If someone is genuinely, because I've seen a lot of times, I'm polyamorous, like I said, and they just use that.
They're just straight up fuckboys, yeah.
Yes. You know, and there's a time, honestly, where I was like fresh out of separation. I had my hoe phase for sure, and I was actually my ex-girlfriend said poly potential, and I was like, you're right. I probably shouldn't be saying. You know, it's like you don't know until you know. But then again, you can know that you're bi without having sex with someone of your same gender. It's just like, you know. Even now, I'm not actively practicing polyamory, you know, but I know I'm polyamorous.
Yeah.
But,
so
like,
I think to answer your question, I think yes, honestly. I think that there is I don't know the opposite of glut. There is a very limited amount of like emotionally intelligent, actually polyamorous men that feel comfortable enough in themselves to be able to work on things. Mm-hmm. So I think that because of that, because of the frankly the lack of people within the community in general that are actually genuine, we get more leniency because that fosters more of that community and it gives more numbers for us to call ourselves out.
I mean, you're kind of saying like the bar is in hell for men, so as long as we're trying.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Let's be honest, man. The bar is in hell, but there's motherfuckers here dancing with the devil. So like, I mean, come on, like, and yeah, and I do. I think that we're held to less of a standard because everybody else is just so shitty outside of it, and. For me, and that's part of the reason why I do what I do. Like, for me, I kind of take that as like, you're right. There are a lot of really shitty men in polyamory. There are a lot of really shitty men in general. So what can we do to fix that? And then like a lot of the things that I've heard back, especially from women, is like, brother, we've already tried to fix it. Fix it your goddamn self. And it's like, okay, cool, no problem. Tell me what you think the issues are, and I will go forth and try to fix. And I mean, that's part of my name, Mender, for God's sakes. Like I chose that as like a mender of people, a mender of relationships. So for me, it's like, now it's my responsibility as somebody who has been allowed into these communities, who has been like shown the grace to grow by these amazing people and these amazing teachers who I'll be infinitely thankful for. It's my job now to go out and spread that bullshit to people who look like me and change like what that perception is so that I'm not considered special. I'm not considered important. I'm not considered somebody that is out of the norm, because at the end of the day, I recognize I've got some really, really, really shitty toxic masculinity stuff still rolling around in here. I've got patriarchal frameworks that have controlled my life for so long, I don't see any other modus operandi to use. So like, but I shouldn't be like, I'm a normal dude as far as I can tell. And I should be the baseline, like mildly emotionally intelligent and willing to learn.
And to your point before about people, you know, get out there and explore different spaces, different points of view, perspectives. Essentially, you don't know, like, the work you're kind of doing just by putting it out there or by starting a conversation with somebody in a more, you know, cultural normative framework of just, like, kind of, like little hints of, like, oh, maybe we could be better, you know, like, try this perspective, you know. Mm-hmm. Like I said, for me, I don't know any of these terms, any of this lifestyle stuff at all.
For sure.
Until, actually, when I was I might be polyamorous, I actually reached out to one of my friends from high school. I've known for like 20 years. And like, she brought it up. I did not even bring anything up. That's why it's actually very serendipitous point in my life we got coffee, and she's like, my husband, who I've known since like elementary school, and then she was also like, and my boyfriend, I'm polyamorous, and I was like, oh my god, like the timing of it all, to like just to be having coffee with you, and like this is on my mind too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she didn't know anything about my life at all, but in some way, her opening up that door, which was also her claiming her truth to a friend, which I'm sure for her
was very vulnerable and potentially scary.
A big thing. She came out to her parents, like her dad, like won't even want to meet the boyfriend, for example. So like, it's obviously, it's not always going to be a surefire, we love you and support you in any way.
Yeah.
But like I said, like this to me, this is my first time. I think I told you this is my first experience talking about any of this stuff on a public forum whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone sees, the pages I like on Instagram, they can make some nations,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty open without being like TMI about how I feel about relationships, how I feel about what is masculinity wise, just because you never know what like cis hetero normative presenting dude is secretly struggling, or maybe looking for something that like they know something's not right,
but they don't have the language, or they don't know the concepts.
Exactly. And I'm sure their body at first would be like, oh, that's too much, or like I don't swing that way, whatever. I don't think I'm too jealous for that, but
then once you open yourself up to the idea that it exists, it shifts your Overton window.
Yeah, and it's obviously not brainwashing or indoctrination. Like, oh, this exists, and obviously it's entirely okay if you are very culturally, mononormative. But this whole world and different way to approach genders and gender traditions and sexuality exists. You know? And it's at your fingertips if you know where to look and if you're open to it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm hoping to do with like conversations like this, and is to give people like, these are the experiences that people have. The like, arguably, you're a very, very masculine dude. Like you are somebody that, like, just looking at your page, looking at kind of your physique pictures that I saw, my expectation would not be that you are the absolute delight of a human you have been this entire time. Like, and I am so endlessly appreciative of you coming on today and like talking with me. We are kind of getting to that point, and I know that you do have some stuff you got going on after this. So again, thanks for coming on. If you've got anything, any places, I know you said you have a band. If you don't want to share it here, you're sending it to me afterwards. But yeah, tell people where they could find you and what you got going on.
I did mention my original project earlier, so a lot of my own, I guess, therapy has been writing my feelings down. It doesn't like explicitly say anything about like polyamory, for example, but just like my own mental health journey, a lot of stuff actually with masculinity and opening up. It's called Animal Ion. Animal like tighter, and then Ion, I-O-N.
I'm gonna put the link somewhere.
Very hard rock, very introspective. Like I said, Cornell's like biggest influence, and obviously a lot of his lyrics were very depressing. But a lot of that just. Once again, I've had people come to me and be like, that song really resonated with me, because I just have been feeling the same way. So like I said, if you're anyone, any gender, just if you want to check that stuff out, just maybe get a little more perspective on, I guess, the overall human condition and how I've related to it over the past 2 years.
Nice. Right on. Like I said, I will include links, description, and probably, I don't know, it might be up there, it might be down. It'll be somewhere. All right, cool. Well, thank you again, Anthony. Greatly appreciate it. And to everybody, thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, do the stuff. As you can tell, I'm a perfect content creator. And yeah, like I like to say, be the man that you needed when you needed one, because we need them more than ever. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.